Ramjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Mishpad Paramahansa Dravida Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Dravida Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Kuntaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. You're actually going to sit down there, right? Damada, you're going to sit down?
Yes.
Okay. So everyone, look, what's wrong with this picture?
Everyone's to the right.
What's wrong with this picture? No. What's missing?
The bodies. And the sign.
Something else. Something else. Is there a garland? I mentioned this already. You guys, jeez. I'm not going to say anything next time. It's just that, there might be a sannyasi sitting here or something. Then it would be a disaster. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Can you turn the volume down a bit? Just a slight bit, thanks. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this first day of December 2017 in SanDiego, a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 3, the status quo, Chapter 28, Lord Kapila's instructions on the execution of devotional service. Text number 8. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina vijukaya samabhiset. All right, forgive me, but I forgot to push record, so I'm going to give the announcement again. On this first day of December 2017 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. 3:28:8. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina Vijukaya samabhyase. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina Vijukaya samabhyase. Go ahead. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasman svasti samasina vijukaya samabhyaset. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina vijukaya samabhyaset. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina Vijukaya samabhyase. Santosh, you do. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina vijukaya samabhyase. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina vijukaya samabhyase. Ian, you're on. Shuchal deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin svasti samasina Vijukaya samabhyase. Shuchal deshe, in a sanctified place. Pratishtapya, after placing. Vijita asanaha, controlling the sitting postures. Asanam, a seat. Tasmin, in that place. Svasti samasinaha, sitting in an easy posture. Vijukaya, keeping the body erect. Samabhyasate, one should practice. Translation: after controlling one's mind and sitting postures, one should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place, sit there in an easy posture, keeping the body erect, and practice breath control. Please repeat. After controlling one's mind and sitting postures, One should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place.
One should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place.
Sit there in an easy posture,
Sit there in an easy posture,
keeping the body erect,
keeping the body erect,
and practice breath control.
and practice breath control.
Damara, we don't need the door open. The noise is going to... So there's something going on out there. Purport. Sitting in an easy posture is called swasti samasinaha. It is recommended in the yoga scripture that one should put the soles of the feet between the two thighs and ankles and sit straight. As far as I can tell, that's full lotus posture. That posture will help one to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This very process is also recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter. It is further suggested that one sit in a secluded, sanctified spot. The seat should consist of deerskin and kusha grass topped with cotton. So that's the nice seat, and that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter. I'm going to read one more. Pranasya shodhayen margam pura kumbhakarechakai patikule navachittam yata stiramachanchalam. The yogi should clear the passage of vital air by breathing in the following manner. First, he should inhale very deeply, then hold the breath in, and finally exhale. Or, reversing the process, the yogi can first exhale, then hold the breath outside, and finally inhale. This is done so that the mind may become steady and free from external disturbances. Purport. These breathing exercises are performed to control the mind and fix it on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Savai Manuk Krishna Padara Vindayo. The devotee Ambarish Maharaj fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna 24 hours a day. The process of Krishna consciousness is to chant Hare Krishna and to hear the sound attentively, so that the mind is fixed upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality. The real purpose of controlling the mind by the prescribed method of clearing the passage of the life air is achieved immediately if one fixes his mind directly on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Hatha Yoga system, or breathing system, is especially recommended for those who are very absorbed in the concept of bodily existence. But one who can perform the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna can fix the mind more easily. 3 different activities are recommended for clearing the passage of breath: Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka. Inhaling the breath is called Puraka, sustaining it within is called Kumbhaka, and finally exhaling it is called Rechaka. These recommended processes can also be performed in the reverse order. After exhaling, one can keep the air outside for some time and then inhale. The nerves through which inhalation and exhalation are conducted are technically called the Ida and the Pingala. The ultimate purpose of clearing the Ida and Pingala passages is to divert the mind from material enjoyment. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one's mind is his enemy, and one's mind is also his friend. Its position varies according to the different dealings of the living entity. Time out. There's a mistake here. I'm going to make a little marker. This is my wife. Okay. All right. If we divert our mind to thoughts of material enjoyment, then our mind becomes an enemy. And if we concentrate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, then our mind is a friend. By the yoga system of Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka, or by directly fixing the mind on the sound vibration of Krishna or on the form of Krishna, the same purpose is achieved. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that one must practice the breathing exercise, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. By virtue of these processes of control, the mind cannot wander to external thoughts, Cetasa Nanigamina. Thus one can fix his mind constantly on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can attain him, Yati. Practicing the yoga system of exercise and breath control is very difficult for a person in this age, and therefore Lord Chaitanya recommended Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should always chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord Krishna, because Krishna is the most suitable name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The name Krishna and the Supreme Person Krishna are non-different. Therefore, if one concentrates his mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same result is achieved. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So now we're continuing with this technical description of the yoga process by Kapila Dev, Lord Kapila Dev. And we'll, just again to reiterate, he began his instructions to his mother in the 25th chapter, which is a chapter entitled The Glories of Devotional Service, by describing anything but the yoga system. I mean, he was describing how one should associate with the sadhus and hear from them and then become absorbed in hearing of his glories. Kapila Deva is Krishna, and thereby developed faith and devotion and attachment to Krishna. So that's the first instruction. Now he's describing this classic Ashtanga Yoga process. He's describing, he mentioned Yama and Niyama, and then the asana is right here in this first verse we read. Vijitasana, it's interesting, you get Vijitasana. You know what that means? Vijita asana. To conquer. To conquer. In other words, it's difficult. Anyone who's practiced Hatha Yoga, you can't just go in there and do all the postures, right? You have to conquer over the reluctance of the body and the stiffness and everything. So there's a certain practice that has to be done in order to get to the point where Prabhupada mentions this swasti samasana. Swasti simply means su asti. It means very good. Asti means is. So is really good. In other words, easy posture. In other words, when it becomes easy to sit in lotus posture. Has anyone ever tried that? Not so easy, especially at first. It took me. You got it?
Yeah, I could be one.
Yes, me too. But it takes a while. I mean, you have to kind of, I mean, maybe you did it right off the first time. But certainly to sit for any length of time takes practice, because the legs are stiff, whatever. So once you've conquered that asana and you can sit easily, you know, very firmly, that's what he's talking about here. Vrijukaya, and then the whole idea is to keep the body erect, as Krishna says. And that facilitates, as Prabhupada mentioned, that facilitates control of the mind, makes the mind peaceful. The breathing, I used to do that also. It works. I mean, even in my little, you know, baby pranayama, you know, you can feel, you become peaceful. And the whole point of it is, as Prabhupada describes in the second purport here, is to make the mind achanchalam. The mind is classically chanchalam, as Arjuna has declared. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balabhadridham tasaham nigraham manye vairivata duskaram. Zach is going to tell us what it means.
Well, Krishna, the mind is turbulent, obstinate.
How about the chanchalam?
Flickering,
Yeah.
and very strong.
Yeah, and to control it is more difficult
And controlling the wind.
than the wind, you know. The mind is really the whole point of any yoga practice. Ultimately, it comes to that. And so all of this is simply to quiet the mind. And we don't negate this. You may not know this, but in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is an instruction for householders, basically, there's instruction for pranayama there. Because it was well known, this is a way in which you can quiet the mind, you know, and fix it, and then fix it on whatever you want to fix it on, but you want to fix it on Krishna. So Prabhupada makes it clear that our process of chanting, both in kirtan and in japa, is sufficient for controlling mind. If one simply hears, and we've all experienced it sometimes, it's not so simple to hear. The mind is going here and there, it's fighting the holy name, and this sleepiness that's often there, especially when you first start to chant for any length of time. I'm convinced that that's more than just not getting enough sleep the night before. Because you don't fall asleep at prasadam. Who falls asleep? No, I've never seen it in all my years. But you fall asleep because the mind is fighting the name. The mind wants to think of something, and you want to think of this thing, and the response is to shut down. Anyway, this is my experience. And so it's a sadhana. This is what sadhana means. Sadhana means practice. As Krishna famously says, from wherever and whatever the mind wanders, bring it back under the control of the self. And in the latest Gitas, it says the cap as self. Because our convention is small s self is the individual soul, cap s self is the super soul. So in other words, bring it under the control of Krishna. Our point is to allow the mind, or surrender our mind to Krishna. Once the mind is surrendered to hearing Krishna, everything else follows. You'll automatically feel attracted to serve Krishna. This is why generally, after a very good morning program, rounds are good, you've extended the kirtans, and you heard the Bhagavatam, you feel enlivened to serve Krishna. Isn't it? If there's any point in the day where you really feel a little spontaneity to serve Krishna, it's at that point when you're most Krishna conscious. Because Krishna is inspiring you from within. Krishna is always in there, within the heart as the super soul. And from that position, what does he give? Sarvasya chaham mridisam mattak smrtiya jnanam apohanancha. He declares in the 15th chapter, 15:15, it's easy to remember the number, that I'm there, situated in the heart of everyone as a super soul, and from me come knowledge, remembrance, and also forgetfulness. Where would we be without forgetfulness? Everyone would have a massive case of PTSD. Can you imagine remembering your last death? And the one before that, before that, before that? No one could deal with that, right? Even so many things that happen in this one life we've forgotten. The mind automatically puts them out so you can have some peace. But, so forgetfulness is also a blessing. But if you want to remember him, then he'll help you. Tesham satati yuktanam bhadatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam yena mama piyantade. For those who are serving me with love, or trying to serve me with love, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. And what's the means? He says, madchitta, madgata prana, bodhiyantakpara. This is the previous verse in 10:8 in the Bhagavad Gita. Those who understand me to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of everything, they worship me with all their hearts. How do they do it? They place their mind on me. They dedicate their life to me. Prana, here's the prana again. Here the prana means the life energy, right? Life force. Madchitta madgata prana. Madgata prana means their life energy comes to me, goes to me. Bodhiyantak parasparam. They get together and mutually talk about me, glorify me. The perfect distilled essence of that is kirtan, sankirtan. You hear and I chant, I hear and you chant. It's perfect parasparam. That's parasparam. As well as what we're doing here, or you get together and just sit down, each with your device or a copy of the Nectar Devotion, and just dive into the nectar. You read a little bit, I hear. You read a little bit, we discuss for 5 minutes. Simplest thing. This is what Kapila Deva recommends in chapter 25. Satam Basangam Mamaviya Samad. So, Bodhiyam Katayantastamam Nityam, always glorifying me together, and Tushanti Chadamanti Cha. They become satisfied, Tushanti, and Ramanti, they enjoy spiritual pleasure. And there is no limit to that. We can read about it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and other books. The way Lord Chaitanya and his devotees would spend all night. They would have kirtans, they would hear and chant, and And so that's how we control the mind. And the mind becomes saturated, becomes purified, and becomes naturally attracted to Krishna. How that verse goes, Piladeva, I think, will in a few verses will describe, unless he's already described, I forget where it is, the symptoms of one in pure devotion. And how does it go? Madgunashtimatena something guhashayam Manogatir avichinna yata gangambasam mudao. That simply madguna, simply hearing. Matrena means only. There's some simple like simply hearing my qualities vibrated by a devotee, pure devotee, best sincere devotee. Simply hearing that, hearing about me, who am situated in everyone's heart, giving them intelligence, the mind comes to me, is immediately attracted as powerfully as the Ganges flowing into the sea. In other words, as soon as you hear some Krishna Katha, immediately you're attracted to hear it. As attracted as, let's use Rupa Goswami's analogy, as much as a young boy wants to think about a young girl, or young girls want to think about a young boy. There's one verse which I'm going to resurrect from not now, from my memory, but it describes how the prayer, there's a prayer in the Pajavali, which says, as much as a separated lover wants to read a letter sent from the lover, it comes after a long time and you read it out loud, that's how much, please give me that much attraction to hear your holy name. You see? And there's a whole list of them also, like that. So this is our process for controlling the mind. It's cultivating attraction for Krishna Katha, for hearing and chanting about Krishna. And that includes reading and writing, and serving. That comes naturally. So Prabhupada mentions that. Now, he references the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, how the mind is the enemy as well as the friend. Udadedatparatmanam natmanam avasari atma vyatmano bandhur atma viriparatmanaha. One should elevate oneself by the mind, not degrade oneself. The mind is the best friend of the living entity and is enemy as well. And then the next verse he describes that if the mind is conquered and fixed on me, it becomes one's best friend. When that becomes habitual, when you can't forget, you never want to forget. That's 24 hours. You dream of Krishna. You can imagine how wonderful that would be? To spontaneously have the mind attracted to Krishna. And then you really, start to taste how wonderful Krishna is. These incredible descriptions we have, they all become real. Try to remember, just as the holy name, and this is worth mentioning here, Namachantamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purnak Shuddho Nityamukto Banadva Namanamino. The last line means Amanadva Namanamino. There's no difference between the name and the named. You understand what that means, Ian? The name itself is Krishna. So when we chant Hare Krishna, we're actually associating with Krishna. He's allowing us to associate with him, anywhere, anytime. So that also holds true for all these descriptions. Like I chanted, this verse from the beginning of the 21st chapter. It's in the Bhagavatam, well-known verse. It's describing Krishna entering the forest. Bahapidam karnayokar. Okay, that's all the Sanskrit I'll give you. I'm going to give you the English now. Listen. With lovely peacock-plume upon his head, and fragrant flower placed upon his ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows, and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glories sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way, with fine impressions of his lotus feet. Now, that's my little attempt at poetry, but the point is, in any language, especially Sanskrit, which is so exquisite, the vibration is non-different from Krishna. That description, if you get absorbed in it, you're actually, it's just as good ontologically as being there with Krishna walking into the forest. That's the difference between material description and something spiritual. Material description is a pale reflection of the reality. And still, we're so enthralled with the material things because we're contaminated. But when we cultivate and we culture that attraction for Krishna Katha, we can experience all the things that are described here in these realized scriptures. It's quite a breathtaking event. You want to be in the battle with the demons and the demigods? Just read the 6th canto. You're there, when you have that kind of realization. So that's our method of purifying the mind. The mind is naturally, we just read, recently I think we read it, is that the mind is naturally wants to serve Krishna. It's just like the demigods. When the demigods become very pleased when you fix your mind on Krishna. And then everything falls into place. Everything falls into place. In other words, you read about some of the descriptions of the kingdom of Yudhishthira or King Parikshit. It's famously said when Yudhishthira became king after all that war, the Mahabharata, now he's king for some time. Then the rains were coming in the right quantity and only at night, so they didn't bother anybody, and the rivers were filled with abundance in the fields. Everything was in tune. because the human population is in tune. Because now, what's going on? Disaster. Naturally, you can see. And when that hits, you can't do anything. Think of Houston. Think of Florida. Think of Puerto Rico. Not a thing you can do about it. And they even have enough consciousness. It's kind of a pale reflection of the reality to name them. In other words, these hurricanes have names, right? Personified. Yeah, because there's a person behind it. Indra's there, punishing. So it's just the opposite. Now, in our own lives, of course, we're a small band. Even all the devotees in the world are still very minuscule compared to the world population. So you can't see how it's going to happen. Although you can take courage and take encouragement from the fact that in a mere 50 years, yes, the Hare Krishna mantra spread all over the world. 500 million books have been distributed. Literatures have been distributed about, Prabhu's books and BTG magazines and everything. And there are temples everywhere. In India, it's huge. It's really booming. It's been booming for years. So there's the countervailing force. The only countervailing force that is going to save the world is actually there. But who knows exactly how that's going to happen. But I like to bring this up because sometimes you're looking for miracles, right? I mean, actually, this whole movement is a miracle. We're sitting within a miracle, and the fact that either of us gets up and chants Hare Krishna is a miracle. But over the last 70 years, is it 70 years? It's more than 70 years now since the atom bomb exploded, right? I bring this up because we recently had, was it the 50th anniversary? 55th anniversary of the Cuban Missile Crisis. I was completely aware of that. I don't know if you were, Bob. You're the only one. You're too young. So it was horrendous. It's just like imagine that okay, you go about it. We got about a morning program, and then we somehow get the news that nuclear war is imminent. It's imminent. So make your peace. Whatever. I mean, just that's the way it was. Is that everyone thought, it's hopeless. The Russians had put these nuclear weapons there in Cuba, and their ships are steaming toward the island, and we've created a blockade, and when the Russian ships hit there, they're going to be some firefight, and then it'll explode into. And I'm sitting in New York, which is about 4 minutes away from Cuba, if they send one of those missiles. So it seemed like I'm 14 years old, I'm watching the TV, I'm not chanting Hare Krishna, I had no idea. So somehow or other, it was avoided, and the whole world breathed a sigh of relief. And it came down. I didn't know this until about a year ago. Say, did I tell this story? I think I did. Anyway, you probably never heard it, Ian, and you didn't hear it, Bob. So it turns out that the Russians had submarines accompanying these ships on top. And the submarines, one or more of them, was armed with nuclear torpedoes, nuclear-tipped torpedoes. Now, what's the advantage? Because you shoot one of those things at one of these big aircraft carriers. We had it all deployed around there, and they'll blow up. You can sink it. So they actually had that. So what happened was that you got to take it back. 55 years. The communications is pretty crude. So we were able to tell that they had these submarines. We didn't know that they had nuclear missiles on them. But we said, that's a threat, so we got to make them surface, right? So we radioed somebody in Moscow, hey, we're going to drop these non-lethal depth charges. You've seen that in the movies, where they drop the thing, they explode underneath, and they break the hull and they sink the submarine. But they have them that just makes a loud noise and it scares you and says, come up, you got to come up, So we're going to drop these non-lethal depth charges to make the submarines come up. So one of the submarines, but there's no way that Moscow could get that message to the submarine. So they're just under there, they got their little thing, they're very crude, to understand. So they're down there, and they start hearing these explosions all around them. And they said, oh, World War III must have started. America has attacked us. They're trying to sink us. So there's 3 leaders on that ship. There was a fleet of them, and so there's an admiral in charge of the whole fleet. He happened to be on that submarine. Then there's 2 other guys, both of whom have to agree, because they know it's World War III if they send these, that they should send the nuclear torpedoes and sink the big aircraft carrier, which would definitely mean World War III. 2 of the guys, they said, let's shoot. We got to shoot. We're being attacked. The war isn't going on above the ground. We can't see anything, but it must be above the surface. But the third guy, the third one, the admiral, said, no, there's got to be some mistake. I'm not going to start World War III just on our speculation that it started before. So they surfaced. There was no war going on. That's how close we came. That's how close. None of you guys would have been born. I don't think you would have been born either. And there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's a bunch of them where we came this close to the end of the world, to the nuclear bombs going off, and everything would have been changed. So somehow the earth has pulled through. And now, after coming to Krishna consciousness, this is Krishna's arrangement. 3 years later, Prabhu comes into New York. 3 years, in 65, he came to New York. 62 is when the missile crisis came. It looks like another situation right now for those who are following. It doesn't look good. We got to be squeezing those beads and praying for Krishna. So you can see Krishna's miracle, but even in our own lives, you can see his hand working. So this process of chanting, as Prabhupada says here, all of this, purifying the Ida and Pingala, remember those terms when I did Hatha Yoga, and pranayama, it works. But it's very, very slow. And there's nothing inherently devotional about it. There's nothing spiritual about it. It's just subtle material energy. And that's why these yogis, if they really get advanced, oftentimes they become very proud. Imagine if you could fly in the sky, walk on water, create anything you want, control anyone's mind. That's not conducive to the humble attitude of a devotee, right? So we don't want to go down that route. We can learn how to sit, whatever, sitting and chanting is good. I think Vaisheshika Prabhu, he does half lotus posture, which is easy to do. And it's good to sit on one of these. He gave me this, to sit like this. It helps the back to stay straight, in a more relaxed way. All of that is good. We can do it. Even standing on the head. There's a story where Prabhupada was walking in Bombay on a morning walk, and they saw some fellow standing on his head. Early morning, it's common. And they said, no, Prabhupada, we don't do that. We don't. No one does. He said, you should try it sometime, Prabhupada said. It's good. In other words, these things can be integrated as needed, as appropriate for bhakti, whatever helps. But the most important thing is to follow in the footsteps of those who've gone before. What helps us to concentrate? Getting up early, coming to the program, taking a cold shower, becoming regulated, not eating that much. That's eating moderately, sleeping moderately. That's also in the 6th chapter. These are things that are recommended. Atyahara priyasascha bhajalpo niyamagraha. Nonsense talk. In fact, naturally, when you hear a lot of sound vibration having nothing to do with Krishna, then it's more difficult to concentrate on Krishna and remember Krishna, because all those impressions come up. It's logical. So these do's and don'ts that we follow are designed to gradually absorb our mind in Krishna. And not just the mind. When the mind goes, as I mentioned, everything else will be there. You become attracted, more spontaneous to serve Krishna. Because that's our natural position. Our natural position is Jivera Swarupa Krishnera Nityadas. This Swarup. Swarup is a very important concept. It means your original form, which can, and with that form goes everything else. The function, the dress, the mood, the specific way you want to serve Krishna. Swarup Siddhi. That's the perfection of your understanding of Swarup. And in Bhagavatam says this is mukti. Mukti hitvanyatarurum swarupena vavastati. To be fixed in your Swarup. In other words, 24 hours a day, you're dreaming of your personal service to Krishna in your original form, and during the day you're seeing Krishna everywhere and serving him according to your duties and everything else, spontaneously. That's what we're aiming for. And it doesn't require, everyone is eligible. It's not that you have to, there's no, if you meet A, B, C, and D, then you can begin bhakti. No? From any platform. You chant Hare Krishna. If you have enough moxie to just start chanting, no matter what you've done before or where your brain is at, you start chanting. And then from hearing, you have to chant and then also hear. And you realize that takes a little bit of faith. There has to be that preliminary faith. Yeah, I heard Prabhu, I heard these lectures all the time. And he mentions in that ladder that Rupa Goswami has given, Adhau Shraddha Tataksaru Sangha Tapajanakriya. This is very important 2 verses we should know, where he's giving the step-by-step development of pure love of Godhead from faith to love. And that Shraddha is not complete Shraddha. That Shraddha is respect, some preliminary interest and respect, enough for you to come in, to open the book, to come to the temple, or to try the chanting with some sincerity, hearing it. I remember long ago, I asked my brother to chant. I had my brother chant around. But he had no faith. He was just doing it as an experiment to show how it didn't help, how there was no God. All right, yeah, I chanted around. I didn't feel anything. You won't. There has to be some sincerity, you know what I'm saying? Something, preliminary interest. So that, that from that beginning can come perfection if we follow the process. And it's dynamic meditation. It means that there's always something to do with your senses and your mind and your interest and, for Krishna. And if we surrender to that, we can advance. Chaitasa Nanya Gamana, with the mind not going anywhere. Prabhupada wraps it all up. Practicing yoga system of exercise and breath control is very difficult for a person in this age. And he would often point out Arjuna rejected it. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya recommended Kirtaniya Sadahari. Become attracted to the kirtan. As I'll say, if I said it once, I said it 10 times. There's an illusion that somehow we can, when the kirtan comes, that's a time when we can do other things, because no one is expecting us, But that's the essence of the practice. If there's a kirtan, you should run to it, not away from it. That's what's going to help you get over the hump. To get an attraction for kirtan. Prabhupada says the greatest Vedantist is one who has an attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. So we should try to cultivate that. It's naturally attractive. The name of Krishna and the Supreme Person are non-different. I quoted that verse, Abhinatvam Nama Namino. Means that the name is not different from the name. And, just it's completely inconceivable. There's no scientific way you can prove that. It doesn't make any sense, that Krishna, that's God. I've heard Prabhupada say it 10, 20 times. It's there in the Shastra. So that, somehow realizing that, first of all, accepting it's true, and then taking advantage of that association. How fortunate. God is otherwise, a billion miles away, beyond the barrier of matter. But he's out of his compassion and mercy, he said, okay, I'll be there, especially in this age, in my holy name. And therefore, in this age, just to finish with this, complete this verse, we can all chant together. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Iva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva, 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 Gatit Anyata. Here's another one for you, Ian. Listen carefully. If you want to achieve the supreme goal in life, in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can never be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet bow. And as you chant, you should pray. In other words, Prabhupada said we should pray, O Radha, O Krishna, please engage me in your service. But you can also pray that, oh Krishna, I can't, my mind is all over the place. Please control my mind and place it in your holy name. Just like that song by Rupa Goswami. Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manmanasamada Kadama Payanija Patapankachamakadan데. He likes to beat. I'll teach you many beats. But the way the English goes is, "O Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat. Please place the bee of my restless mind and the honey of your lotus feet." So he says, I can't control this mind. It's chanchalam. It's like more powerful than the wind. How can I control it? But you're so powerful because you can control it. So you place the bee of my mind in the lotus of your feet. This is the advantage of the bhaktas. We can appeal to Krishna to help us. I'll give you one more verse and then I'll stop. This is a verse I chant every morning when we greet the deities. There's two. I'll give you two. Two for the price of one. So the first one goes like this. Rupa Goswami prays. Almost the final verse he ever wrote. Pashupala Varindyanandana Vadametang Moharatihe Yuvam Bhavatu Panayo Bhave Bhave Bhavator Eva Padambu Jeshume. O Radha Krishna, children of the best of cowherd men, this single boon I beg from you again and yet again. In all the countless births my endless sins will make me meet. Let all my love flow toward your luscious, lustrous lotus feet. And then the next verse, because Hanta Santa Kadona Sudha Jadi Purnamana Sadado Pasidatam Durjaneta the Satang Matejana Prekshana Badibabashtatam. Unfortunately, I didn't put that into a poem in Maya. I'll give you the translation. Hanta means alas. Alas. Now get this image now. Sandra Kadona Sudha Jadi. The very strongly flowing mountain stream of the nectar of your mercy is filling up the lakes of your hearts and is overflowing. Hanta Sandra, alas. In other words, you're abounding in mercy. He said, Hanta Sandra Kadona Sudha Jari Purnamana Sadado Prasidatam. If you please, if you like, O Radha and Krishna, please give me just a reflection, a little taste, a little inkling of attraction for you as a guarantee of some future meeting and some future birth. In other words, let me have a little attraction for you. They bestow that, when they're pleased with you. That's their greatest gift, love for them, so that you'll be mad to serve them in every way. That's perfection. Hare Krishna. Any discussion? Yes, Prabhu.
So, we're talking about chanting the holy name, and now the holy name is from Krishna. So, it's also, just kind of trying to understand. So, it said that before you take initiation, the holy name is not for Krishna, but before you take initiation, the chanting is merely merely like a mumble material word, like word chanting. But then when you take initiation, but then
all right, this is obviously something I never heard it before. You heard it in India.
I heard that Bhaktivinoda Thakur states it in.
Okay, you have to show me the quote and the context, and we'll figure that out.
But basically, it's saying like before someone takes initiation, they're not really chanting Hare Krishna.
Shouldn't. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to speculate on what he had in mind or how that works, but it's certainly true that you can make advancement even before taking initiation. Otherwise, how are you going to stay here? So we'll discuss that later.
Yeah, I heard in relation to this, I didn't hear in relation to before initiation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it seems like that would be, it's a limiting Krishna's name that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be limiting Krishna's name, but those who take initiation, but before that, it's not actually Krishna's name, so it doesn't seem to make so much.
Yeah.
But I did hear something like that not before initiation, but just the general idea of it being like offensive chanting. It's like the shadow.
Krishna is not. Yeah, that makes sense. Krishna is not as present in the holy name when you're chanting with all kinds of offenses and you're distracted and all these different things. But there's still potency there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible. Yes.
I was just wanting to hit on the cold shower thing.
Cold shower.
Now, can we take a hot shower and then final rinse with cold water?
Hold on 1 second. Don't lean. Well, I'll explain why. Go ahead. Cold shower and you can do that. I'm not saying you're disqualified because you put hot water in. The idea is that it helps, to wake up, And it is a danger of getting into a sense gratification with a hot shower. You know, that's a definite possibility. I think it's probably pretty intuitive, isn't it? I'll tell you a story. This is God's honest truth, Krishna. Some of you remember. You don't remember. You may remember. You know, Radheya was here. You remember him. So Radheya was a nice boy. I saw him in Alatra. He's hanging out. He's doing his thing. He came and he visited me. There was some. I know it's getting late. I'll just be real quick. He said, we thought that he might become an editor because he's very smart, you know, and he had a lot of editing chops, you know, and stuff. It didn't work out, but he stayed with me for months. I forget, 6 months or something. Yeah. So anyway, while he was there, he told me what his story was, you know, how he had been out there, you know, and his grandma, who was a famous devotee in L.A., but became a little estranged, she married into some money, and she wanted to send him to the best schools. You know, he's really had the brains for it. So they sent him first to a, what do they call it, a prep school? One of these fancy prep schools in Massachusetts where after that you go to either Harvard or Stanford or something. So he was, I forget the name of it. So he's in the prep school, you know, but he's a devotee. His father was a Prabhupada initiate, and one of the last. He was like 14, he was initiated in 1977 or something like that. So his father was inculcated all this devotion, and he had these devotee friends. So he became dissatisfied in there, despite all the money that was being spent. So first he goes on the summer tour, you know, coming out of Alachua, the bus tours. They've come here sometimes, the young kids, you know. There's all his friends, you know, from the group. He was in the Gurukul for a while. And on one of those buses, Jayadvaita Swami used to ride for maybe a week on one of them, you know, and help the kids, you know. So he really was attracted to him, and he was hearing from him and everything. So Jayadvaita Maharaj, somehow out of that association came his desire to go to India, to Vrindavan, and to attend Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu's Sanskrit school, which was famous for about 5 years until Gopi unfortunately left us in 2011. So he was in there, and he told me about that. There's no hot water, you know. And it's really more than just a school. It's a whole ashram. He's training all these guys to be Brahmins, and this is cream of the crop. They're all a lot of them going to be Sanskrit scholars and so on, you know. So he was trained there for like a year, and then he came to me and everything, and things changed. And he told me that it was preached there that there's no hot water, and you don't need any hot water, you know. In other words, it was all cold showers, you know. So after that, you know, so I'm thinking, well, okay, you know, I mean, I'm not into hot showers, but I always take, you know, a pretty cold one in the morning, you know. I've been doing that forever. So I said, okay, from now on, I'm just going to ignore the left side. I'll never touch it for a shower. See how long I can do it, you know. So it's pretty bracing, especially when I would go to Chicago for Christmas festival every year. But I've been doing it ever since. I swear to God, as Krishna is my witness. I haven't. I think of him, and I think of well, now I've done it so many times, and I'm not going to break now. And it's a whole different thing, even during the day, you know. It's extremely healthy for you. It's said, and this I've definitely heard, that the cold shower cleans your subtle body as well as your gross body, you know. And you look it up. It's aside from spiritual life, it's a healthy thing to do. They even have people who swim in, you know, I would never do that, and go in the winter. Here they say it's very cold. You told me it's very cold. I don't know. I've never been in 30 years. but you know, in the ice, break the ice and go through, you know, polar bear, you know, club. But it's very healthy for you. So material health, spiritual health, you know, it's at least in the morning, you know. Just do it. Just do it. You'll be happy. All glories to the Prabhupada.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to try to take
Try it.
a really cold shower tomorrow morning.
Yes. Yes. You tell me your experience after.
Can it be like lukewarm? Fully cold.
If I say no, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you could decrease gradually. You know, one day you go.
Yeah, don't freak yourself out. You know, try it
completely cold, and then it's impossible. Then turn up the heat a little bit until it comes to the point where you can tolerate it.
I'm gonna have to start it.
Once you see the steam coming out, you can stop
Yeah.
there.
Awesome.
I'm telling you, it helps. You know, if you are able to do that, it gives you confidence for doing other difficult things. That's how it works.